think people will be faster than we expect to adapt to AI mode because they've done a brilliant job. It's not as good for us as SEOs, but for the audience, for the other people, I think they've done a brilliant job to get people used to conversational chats instead of having to scroll through different websites and click here and click there. I think it solves so many issues and makes life so much easier that it will be adopted by everyone very fast. I think it changes the user journey completely, which probably makes the whole process of changing from traditional search to AI search also faster to fully roll out. For the first time and maybe final time, we will be writing content for humans instead of writing content for Google. So that might actually be the main strategy. I think there is a difference between how much we trust the source and how easy it is for us to get the answer. And there will be a point where we won't care as much about the source if we can get the answer quickly, straight away. So that's why we go to ChatGPT, because imagine typing that on Google, what kind of results are you going to get? There would probably be something like Reddit or Quora or something very user-generated. That is the selling point of AI at the moment, is that you can actually describe something however you want, and either in the first iteration or after that, you are going to get the answer.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Search With Candour, the podcast where I, your host, Jack Chambers-Ward, interview the best and brightest minds across SEO and digital marketing. This week I am joined by the one and only Pablo López. Pablo and I are going to be talking all about clickless SERPs. Basically, it's kind of the future of search, in Pablo and I's opinion. In fact, I'm doing a talk about it at Brighton SEO in a couple of weeks, if you didn't already know that. And Pablo has some really interesting ideas, theories, and opinions about the future of search, what zero clicks means for creators, publishers, and websites in general, and how we can start to prepare for this era that seems to be arriving thanks to things like AI overviews, ChatGPT, and of course, Google's AI mode as well. Before I get to my conversation with Pablo, please do like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, follow and rate if you are watching or listening on Spotify, and of course, review, rate, whatever it's called on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you're listening on. I hugely appreciate anybody who takes the time to go and review, rate, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I really, really appreciate you guys. Like I said, I think it's a really interesting conversation with Pablo all about clickless SERPs and what do we do about them? And here's this conversation coming up right now. My guest this week has worked in digital marketing for nearly 10 years. In his career, he has worked agency side, in-house and freelance, and has worked with clients such as Under Armour, the NHS, and Easy Group. You may recognize him from appearances at Brighton SEO. I like to give a shout out to Brighton SEO every time here on the show. He is the senior SEO consultant at Depth Agency. Welcome to the show, Pablo López.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for connecting. And I know we were just talking before we started recording. This is a big topic, right? We're going to get into a hot topic that's happening a lot in SEO right now that a lot of marketing people are talking about. And you came to me with clickless SERPs. What do we do now? Which I think is a brilliant way of kind of framing that conversation and framing that problem, I guess, that we're seeing in SEO at the moment. And I know before we start recording as well, I'm doing a talk on zero-click SERPs at Brighton SEO later this year. So I think this will be a very relevant topic for a lot of people, what they're going through at the moment, what we're experiencing with all the changes in search and stuff like that. So I guess I'll hand things straight over to you, Pablo, with a big question of, do you think clickless SERPs are the future of search as a whole, or do you think we will kind of coexist with a kind of hybrid model in some form?
I think eventually will become the only search system, the only search interface. I think at the moment we will be in a sort of fluctuation period where traditional search will still be the main, go-to. But I don't know about you. I think now I'm going to ChatGPT more often than I go to Google. So I think that tells you everything. At some point, we will end up using things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI mode. We will be getting used to it because you know how this works. Like we are used to work in SEO, so we handle these things every day. but the audiences, they are not really used to this. So they're probably going to Google a little bit more often. But like Google themselves, they're already saying that that they want to incorporate or make AI mode into the defaulted search interface. So I think it's eventually going to become the way to go, as it was with ChatGPT. Like at the beginning, like people were a bit reluctant to just go to ChatGPT. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know how it works. And pretty much nowadays, everybody is using it. So I think it's inevitable. And I think it means that for us, for SEO consultants, industry experts, we need to start like shifting towards that, because otherwise I think traditional SEO will, I'm not going to say it's going to die, like most people do. I'm not going to go into that, but I think it's going to drastically evolve and shift towards an AI experience. And we just need to adapt to it, because I think otherwise we're just inevitably going to fall behind.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, actually. I think there's a lot of the conversation that's happened since the kind of broad explosion of ChatGPT and Perplexity and even Claude and stuff like that, right? And some of the smaller side of things, but particularly ChatGPT and ChatGPT search, and the fact that a big company like OpenAI wants to get involved in the search side of things, not just being an LLM, not just being an answer engine, whatever you want to call it, but the fact that I think Google I/O last year was when Google were kind of caught with their pants down and were like, there's a challenger, there's something new, there's something different, and we've not really kind of prepared for this. I think they were not ready for a lot of the stuff that OpenAI was coming out with and announcing, like, yeah, we're interested in making a search engine, by the way. And when they announced Gemini and kind of discussed AI overviews and stuff like that, now a year later, it feels like AI mode, as you were saying there, feels like the future of search. And that's what Sundar Pichai and a lot of the people, the top heads at Google are saying, right? At the moment, it's kind of a little thing you can test and an experiment for US users and all this kind of stuff. But I 100% agree with you. I've been predicting we will have AI mode here in the UK by the end of the year. And by the end of next year, I think will be integrated into full main search functions. Maybe my timeline's wrong there. I might be being over pessimistic or optimistic, depending on how you feel about it. But how are you feeling about that kind of thing where, like you said, you agree with me, right? We agree that it's going to be the future. What's that sort of timeline are you thinking? Do you think users are ready for AI mode to be the full search on Google? Normal users, not like us?
But you know what? I think Google has done a brilliant job to like softly launch AI over the years. So if you think about it, probably the first interaction with AI was not even AI, was the addition of all these SERP features like, search snippets, knowledge graphs, all of those things that in the end were like taking space from blue links. I think that was the first time Google was actually like pushing something different. And I think that laid the foundations of what was going to happen after. So I think they then moved to AI overviews. AI overviews at the beginning started to be like a little piece at the top of the page, not really taking much space. I think after I think it was the March core update, they completely changed that. Is now taking most of the screen. And now they're moving to AI mode. I have a theory that AI overviews was a soft launch for them to use AI mode later on. I think they were testing 100%. How people were kind of reacting to AI overviews, to have a system that was like basically responding to answers so they don't have to click. They were testing new things. If you think about how AI overviews was evolving over years, they were years, not even months. They were adding links. They were adding references to maybe like all the Google pages. And I think that is the soft launch that they did for AI mode. So answering to your question, I think people will be faster than we expect to adapt to AI mode, because we've been like, they've done a brilliant job. It's not as good for us as SEOs, but for the audience, for the people, I think they've done a brilliant job to get people used to conversational chats instead of having to scroll through different websites and click here and click there. In terms of timeline, I don't know. I think AI overviews was launched. The difference between AI overviews in the US and Europe, I think it was a little bit less than a year.
Yeah, it was about 5 or 6 months, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I would probably expect something similar. But it's also a massive step compared to AI overviews. So it might take a little bit longer. So maybe end of the year, we can already see a AI mode in Europe. We also need to see how the audience adapt to that, because the US audience might be different to European audience. So we'll see. But I think in general, I expect people to get used to AI more quicker than expected, which probably makes the whole process of changing from traditional search to AI search also faster to fully roll out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there is a big conversation when it comes to user like the I guess the adoption of AI and stuff like that. Like you said, more and more people, plenty of people in our industry and plenty of people outside of our industry are using ChatGPT more than they're using Google. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who does not work in SEO, and she was talking all about, I asked ChatGPT about that. I asked this for ChatGPT, and I was like, and so I'm 34, she's 25, and I was like, I feel very old right now. I still use Google. Like, I don't get me wrong, I still use plenty of LLMs. I use Gemini, I use ChatGPT and stuff like that. But the fact that there is that kind of mindset almost towards my default is ChatGPT, my default is Gemini, my default is whatever, is a really interesting conversation when you frame it in terms of search, right? Like, it comes back around to that clickless side of things of, okay, cool, you're getting the answers, and there's a whole conversation about trust there, right? Like, how much do users trust those answers? We've seen plenty of terrible examples from AI mode, especially recently, where it's just wrong about the day or basic names of people and like really simple stuff we've had the internet tell us for the last 25 years. Do you think we're going to see almost that shift in trust as well as this technology gets better, as this technology gets more and more widely adopted, as it gets more integrated into our lives as well, I guess, is then that trust and that kind of normalcy towards the clickless side of things? Do you think that's going to be, like you said there, right? You think it's going to be faster than we think?
Yeah. I think there is a line or difference between how much we trust the source and how easy it is for us to get the answer. And there will be a point where we won't care as much about the source if we can get the answer like quickly, straight away. I think for more like deep things like research or something that is very relevant for you, maybe things like health, that you obviously want to get the answer right and get the right source, then maybe for those kind of industries, it would be more important to get, to actually understand where the information is coming from. For day-to-day things, I think, do you really think that like an average user will care much where the information is coming from? Although they should care about it. But like, if you put everything in a balance, like, okay, we just type something. We don't have to go through 5 different websites to get the answer. We just get it here. That's it. I can just like come back to my mate and say like, hey, you see, I was right. That if that is the only purpose you use it for, then 100% is going to be like easily, people will get easily used to it, because it kind of solves very fast the questions that we are asking for. And that is the main purpose of why Google is rolling all these different, SERP features, AI overviews, knowledge graphs, feature snippets, because they want to provide us with answers very fast. Because, with TikTok, for example, we are, maybe not me, but the future generations, they are like already short span, like kind of interested. So they want to get stuff fast. And that is the whole purpose of this. So yeah, I think it will be fast, depending on the different generations. But I don't know, even my parents, when I showed them that ChatGPT, they were like, what is this dark magic? So they are using it now. So I think it applies to every single generation. I think it solves so many issues and makes life so much easier that it will be adopted by everyone very fast.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on. And I think that's a really interesting point to pull on. There is the user behavior side of it, right? The actual psychology of people clicking. Because for so long we've talked about click-through rate and the importance of the right title and meta descriptions and all this kind of stuff, right? But if we're in that, the future of zero clicks, the future of clickless SERPs, that, to me, that makes that stuff far less valuable. Granted, we still want to get some click-through and elements like that. But how does that change your kind of thought process around like user journeys and conversion funnels and all that kind of stuff, right? What do you think, like, that shift in, because I think we've seen a lot of it change recently as well. Anyway, I think there's I'd always try to quote the numbers on the podcast. I think it used to be like 8 or 9 things you see of a brand before you purchase something from them or click on their website or whatever, and now it's closer to like 30 or 40 because we are so bombarded with stuff on social media and search and advertising everywhere and all that kind of stuff, right? How do you think the zero click approach changes that user behavior and shifts that kind of user journey?
I think it changes the user journey completely. I think what the like LLMs do is that they nurture the audience. So they basically, by the point when you access a specific website, let's say that, I don't know, you're looking for a flight, you don't know where, you just want to go somewhere. And then you start asking, I don't know, let's use ChatGPT. You start asking ChatGPT, I don't know, I want to go to a hot place. Well, what do you recommend? And it gives you different places. Okay, what about, I don't know, Portugal? I like Portugal. Let's go to Portugal. And you ask like, what months should I go? And what places? And that the whole conversation, like, it happens is bi-directional. So you're already nurturing yourself. You're pointing yourself into the specific direction. If you compare that with traditional search, that would mean you having to go to a website that explains, I don't know, different countries with different weathers, like probably a blog post. And then you might end up in, I don't know, a specific website that is like, I don't know, let's say TUI, that is selling a flight to Portugal in this particular month and for this particular price. So what is this changing? It mainly changes the quality of the lead, because by the time that person or user reaches the end goal, which is the website that sells that specific trip, they already know where to go, how much it is. They are ready to convert. So what we are likely going to see with AI is less meaningful clicks, well, less clicks at all, but at least less clicks that mean nothing or it's going to end up without conversions, but more quality ones. So because the LLMs, ChatGPT, are going to be the ones like dealing with all these informational or even commercial paths. And by the time they reach to a specific website, because at the end of the day, Google, ChatGPT, they don't sell services, they don't sell products. So the users need to go somewhere to get that, given a flight or a pair of trainers or whatever it is that you want to get. So at some point, they will have to go somewhere to buy it. So I think the main difference is the whole user journey is going to be 90% of it will be inside an LLM, and the conversion will be wherever it is. So I think it means that informational content will play a way smaller role when it comes to actual, traffic or clicks or visits to a specific website. But I think, for example, e-commerce are going to benefit a little bit more because those are the ones that are actually selling the end product. That said, I think informational content still needs to be very critical because ChatGPT, the LLMs, they need to get that information from somewhere. And that is where this, the brand relevance, brand perspective is going to come into place, because you need to make sure that your brand is the one that gets recommended by AI. So by the time when the user is ready to go to your website to convert, then they will go to your website and not to the competitors. So yeah, I think the user journey is basically hijacked by AI. But I think the good point or the opportunity here is that the conversion rates will likely be higher because the user will be nurtured inside the LLM before going to your website.
It's a really interesting way of putting it, actually. Yeah, but I think because I feel like we've been moving in the right direction in SEO over the last few years, moving away from a keyword-led kind of discussion to more of a search intent-led discussion, right? I think that's been happening 5-10 years or so. Maybe I'm being a bit generous there, but there's definitely a kind of idea, like you said, when you're searching or when you're talking to a chatbot or an LLM or an AI search, you have this maybe less of an idea sometimes. Like I used the example the other day in the office, we were talking about this and how I think there will be almost like a divergence of keywords as we know it. The way that I search and the way that you search, Pablo, in theory, we're looking for the same product. We both want to fly to Portugal. We're both in the UK. We both want to fly to Portugal. We both want to go in September. But the way we would word that might be different. And the way you kind of understand how that query is broken down. I know there's a big discussion about sort of vectorization and tokenization of queries and stuff like that, right? For me, I think you're totally right with the user journey stuff. You can, because you're already remaining in that platform, and obviously Google has talked a lot about the query fan out stuff that triggers new queries as it goes and does multiple searches. You're being kind of fed along a path a little bit more. There's almost like a built-in conversion path, right? I think you're totally right. It's more nurturing to the user than a typical SERP, because with a typical SERP, you could ping off in a million different directions. Maybe you'll click on an ad, maybe you click on a map pack, maybe you click on a featured snippet or a whatever, or one of the organic results, maybe, who knows? But for me, I think when you're going in with you're looking for an answer, whether that's a product or a service or a specific thing, then you already have that intent in mind before you even search, even if you don't know what you're looking for. And there was an example I know I mentioned probably a couple of months ago at this point where I needed to move. I was getting new kitchen laid down, new flooring laid down in my kitchen, and I needed to move the appliances safely across my existing kitchen floor. I was like, what do you call those? The things. It's like a thing where you like pull the thing. I was like, how do I describe that? And I was typing into Google like thing to move appliances, kitchen moving thing. I don't know what to call it. So I typed it into ChatGPT and I was like, okay, I need a thing that will allow me to safely move my kitchen appliances across my floor without damaging it. What do you suggest? I was like, that's a very conversational question. Like, I would never say that to Google, but it feels so much more natural, right? And like you said, there is that instant kind of shift in intent towards like, well, I know there's something I need. I know there's something I want there. And straight away I was like, oh, you mean appliance sliders? I was like, there you go. It gave me the answer straight away. Here's a few recommendations. Here's a few different things. You can buy it on Amazon. I was like, okay, this makes sense now. And that was a real kind of like light bulb moment for me of actually there are better ways to search for stuff than the typical, oh, how do I word this so Google will understand what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like we've gotten so into that I need to condense it down into 4 words that Google will understand, that will actually give me results. You can just talk. You can just have a conversation, much more natural language, as we talk about NLP so much in this industry. Do you think that then allows us as SEOs to kind of reframe our strategies in that way and rethink about how we're kind of thinking about the user journey in that way? Like it's going to be much more conversational, much more query led, much more, I guess, like, yeah, intent driven in a way, and far less reliant on keywords, right?
Yeah, it's so bespoke. So like, that's why we go to ChatGPT, because if imagine typing that on Google, what kind of results are you going to get? They would probably be something like Reddit or Quora or something like very like user generated. Yeah. So like that is the thing. That is the selling point of AI at the moment, is that you can actually describe something however you want, and either in the first iteration or after that, you are going to get the answer. While if you use Google for that, it's almost impossible. But that kind of follows the same logic or the same kind of path that Google is using over the years. Like if you think about it, around 10, 15 years ago, we would go to Google and we would type, I don't know, travel hot country, like very like boom, boom, boom kind of things. and then hope for the best. Nowadays, before AI, we already changed that. We are formulating more, longer form search queries because we want more specific information. And now we have AI when we don't even have to formulate search query. We can just have a conversation, as you said. So I think that is also shaping how we structure the content. So again, 10, 15 years ago, we probably, if you ask an SEO, they would say that you have to write a 10,000 word article because it has to cover every single thing that relates to the topic that you want to cover. So now I think it's very different. With AI, what you want is answer very specific, very niche questions. So AI will, ChatGPT, the LLMs will just literally pick that up from your content and show it and hope that they mention your brand in the process. So I think that is the main difference that is going to separate how we produce content nowadays. That I think we are probably moving towards an FAQ-like type of writing content where you structure your topic in a way that is super relevant to the question that you will end up trying to solve. And it will be divided into very niche things because that is what the user will be asking ChatGPT. Very specific questions. And you want little paragraphs that answer that question that are to the point to make sure that is mentioned on the chatbots.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you're spot on there, mate. So I guess the next question, obviously, we've mentioned the word clickless many times. You mentioned a bit of brand visibility there, which I think is a very kind of buzzword that we're talking about a lot in SEO in 2025. Brand has become the big thing a lot of people are talking about. If we're not tracking clicks, we're not able to report traffic in the same way to our clients or to our stakeholders, wherever it is, what should we be reporting, right? What are the kind of metrics we should be paying attention to if we're kind of angling it towards the clickless SERP side of things?
That's the $1 million question now. How
isn't it just?
How are you going to measure that? And if you work, for example, agency, how are you going to explain to your clients? You've probably seen what is called the great decoupling. So clicks go down, impressions go up. How do you explain that to a client that you've been fed with information year after year that clicks are good? I think it's brand presence, brand relevance, citations will be probably one of the things to track. I think tools now are evolving, but they are still very early days when it comes to tracking, citations, brand mentions inside the chatbots. I want to think that at some point there will be tools that are better equipped to give us information. Hopefully, Google will also help a bit with that because they integrated AI mode data into Google Search Console, but it's all merged together with the traditional signals, so it doesn't really help much. So it's a bit of a big question mark. How are we going to track? One thing is for sure that we can definitely attribute, AI traffic to conversions because what I said at the beginning, I think conversions will be greatly affected by AI again because the user will already be in a transactional part of the funnel by the time they reach a website. So I think we will see less clicks, but the clicks we actually can track, and then if we can attribute to a specific AI sources, then at the end of the day, revenue and conversions will be probably the main drivers that you are going to track. And this is not a bad thing at all because I think this could actually be the end of vanity metrics because,
that would be nice.
Clicks, Systrix visibility and all those things, which obviously are really helpful in a context of analyzing website performance, but it's not something that you would put in a report to a client probably. So I think it's going to be helpful to maybe switch the focus into more a revenue level. But still, like there is a massive question mark on how are we going to attribute like across the funnel, because as I said, like AI mode, for example, it will be a conversation. So like as it is with ChatGPT, so you might start with a question that is related to a brand, and you might end up with something completely different. But you got there because you started asking about a specific brand. So you should have some sort of attribution, but that is very difficult to track. So it's something that we will hopefully find out more as AI continues to evolve. Testing, experimenting, investigating a lot of things. At the moment, I would say we have to focus on revenue and conversions, because that is the part of the funnel that we can actually track.
Yeah, for sure. And I would hope a lot of SEOs are already doing that, right? They are KPIs for basically every client, basically every stakeholder you could possibly want to talk to. If you're thinking about revenue, you're thinking about conversions, that's the stuff that gets the ball rolling, that gets you buy-in, that gets you more budget and all that kind of stuff at the end of the day. And for me, I think, again, I agree with you. There is a real kind of bad habit we've gotten into as an industry, is kind of focusing on clicks or focusing on those vanity metrics you mentioned. Like we see so many people talking about, oh yeah, this is going to be really important, talking about building links or whatever. And then there's been a whole kind of reaction to that with unlinked brand mentions maybe being valuable again as they were. And that used to be a whole, I remember back in my previous agency days of contacting people to please add a link to my unlinked mention. That would be lovely. All that kind of stuff. Classic old school link building tactics. Do you think that then kind of will influence our strategies in many ways? Like when we're thinking about things that actually matter, you're then optimizing, for want of a better phrase, for conversions, for revenue. Like I said, maybe people are already doing that. If you are, good job, congratulations. But I think a lot of us are still worrying about traffic, still reporting on clicks, all that kind of stuff. You mentioned the decoupling there. I think impressions are going to be more important than ever. The visibility actually in and around the SERP is more important than ever. And as I mentioned earlier, like we're in a world where you will see a brand 30, 40, 50 times, whatever it is, before you even interact with them in any way. So being present in multiple SERPs in multiple ways, in multiple, citations in AI mode and ChatGPT and whatever, is going to be more important than ever, I think, in my opinion. Do you think that then will shift the industry kind of strategy towards that, and will kind of leave behind a lot of the traditional stuff? Like you said, informational content, I think, is still going to be relevant, but we're going to reframe it in many ways and maybe really think about what actually converts and not just chuck out rubbish like we've been doing for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think so. Like, buying backlinks, I think it's, I don't know. I've been saying this for ages. Like, I think it has its days counted, but like somehow keeps actually helping for whatever reason. But I think now the brand component would be critical, and that, as you said, it involves multiple things. Because one of the strategies that you used to do, like in digital PR, is just, you see your brand being mentioned, you want a link in exchange to reach out to the publisher and say, hey, I've seen you mention our brand, so can we get a backlink? So I think nowadays that is not as necessary, because AI or LLMs are going to actually see that and are going to process that as part of their semantic relevance when it comes to like what the user is searching for. So branded mentions, citations, things like, I don't know, reviews, if you're like a business that relies on that, engagement, cross-platform as well. I think SEO has been very siloed for many years, where, especially if you work in larger agencies, you tend to do your own thing and just not communicate very much. I think cross-channel, cross-platform will be also very critical, because again, LLMs also take a lot of data from like social media, like even like things like you give access to like Gmail, and like there's a lot of different sources. So I think having a holistic strategy is going to be more important than ever. So I think we are probably evolving to a place where SEO is fully integrated into like a bigger thing, where you create a content campaign based on also what you're publishing on social media. You also optimize like user-generated content. You execute digital PR campaigns or PR campaigns that are probably more based on a specific topic rather than just like showing your brand here. Here it is. I was reading an article about Ahrefs, how they were like evolving or sorry analyzing the evolution of zero-click searches, and they basically tested like creating very particular, very specific niche articles that were solving the questions, and then in the end they were tracking what is ChatGPT answering to more or less those questions that they were trying to address, and in most of them they actually got Ahrefs mentioned as part of the result of the answer. So that tells you basically how you should lay the foundations of your strategy. You need to make just sure your brand is there, because ChatGPT is not going to mention 50 different brands. So it will mention the only ones that they feel are relevant for whatever you're searching for. So if you end up having a very holistic, integrated SEO strategy that kind of makes sure that your brand is the best for whatever you're searching for, then that will be what makes the difference. Not really like getting backlinks from random sources with 90 plus authority score. So I think that is all days, and I think now, as I said, the brand component will be very, very important.
Yeah, I really love that article. Shout out to Louise Linehan and Ryan over at Ahrefs, where there's that big conversation about like user-focused content, right? And obviously we talk about this a lot in SEO, but I think the mutually valuable side of things, I think, was a really interesting way of wording it, and the brilliant like brand side of it, where they say, if a topic can't be discussed without mentioning Ahrefs, we're in the right position. Like we're in the right ballpark here. And I love that, because I think a lot of brands get kind of carried away. They try and bite off too much. They try and do too many things sometimes. And actually focusing on what you do better than anyone else, or more specific than anyone else, is where you can get a lot of that conversion and get a lot of that brand loyalty as well, right? Like at the end of the day, the ultimate goal will be to have your customers be brand evangelists, right? And then I use Ahrefs, and then we talk about it on the podcast. They are not sponsoring this podcast, for the record. There is no like money exchange anyway. Pablo and I are not sponsored by Ahrefs, but it's that element of, yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Why would you go to somewhere else if you know this person or this brand or this company has the answer, has the product that you need, the solution that you need? And I love their like business potential kind of chart thing that they did, where the vaguer the kind of question is, or the less relevant, the less we prioritize it in our strategy. And really boiling it down to, and it feels like we're doing this a lot at the moment, it's like marketing 101 stuff, right? We've almost kind of come back round where a lot of the strategies have been very niche site focused and lots of backlinks and all that kind of stuff we were just talking about. And now we're back round to, what does your brand say? What are you actually selling? Why are you different to your competitors? And that is fundamental marketing 101 stuff that's been around for hundreds of years, well before the internet or SERPs or anything like that, right?
Yeah, and I think that it pays a lot when you actually understand what your customers are searching for. So I think with SEO, one of the main things that if you think about what is one of the first things that you do when you're starting a campaign, probably like keyword research, or at least it's going to be up there, one of the main things that you start off with. I think now that is also moving into like understanding the customer, the audience, and because at the end of the day, that is what they are going to. They are the ones that are searching for something. So you need to understand, and it also aligns with this article was saying from Ahrefs that they have to prioritize on the things that the users are searching for. If Ahrefs is there, then we prioritize it. If it's likely not going to be there, we don't even pay attention to it. In order to get to that, you need to understand what the audience is going to search for. And for that, as I said, like before, it used to be like keywords. Okay, what are the keywords, the higher search volumes? We're going to focus on that. We're going to create content clusters based on those. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. or will be a little bit different. So we are going to create content around the things that you anticipate your audience will be asking the LLMs. So this part of, personas, creating customer journeys, customer profiles, and then, following trends, like what is people actually asking for. And that is what should be defining the content that you're producing, and how you approach an SEO strategy, rather than a little bit more, keyword centric strategies that used to be used before.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're seeing a lot of that kind of towards the informational content and publishing side of things. Obviously, since the September 2023 helpful content update, a lot of people were just straight up put out of business. Like their clicks dropped to almost nothing, and they so heavily relied on ad revenue and click driven metrics to actually keep their business going. And this is to give you a spoiler here, folks. This is kind of what my Brighton SEO talk is going to be on. So I would love to get your thoughts on it, Pablo. What do you think the publishing side of thing looks like? If you and I seem to agree that in the next year or two, probably we will see this be the core feature of the biggest search engine in the world, and it's still by far, the biggest search engine in the world. When AI mode comes to Google for everybody, and it is the default search, and people are still using ChatGPT search and all that kind of stuff, but you can no longer rely on ad revenue in the same way. You can no longer rely on clicks for publishers or content creators and stuff like that. How do those kind of businesses survive? What do they need to do to adapt, to shift, to re-understand what their processes are going to be like to survive without any clicks, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's one of the industry that's going to struggle the most, because like at the end of the day, the business model is driving traffic and then converting or monetizing that traffic. So if you don't get traffic, well, how do you get your money? I think the shift will probably be around reputation. So still, you might get or you will get a lot of clicks, but only if you center your strategies around actual things that matter for your audience. So it kind of follows the same logic as for the industry. It's just that it's more extreme because they rely on clicks more. But I think it's just like, I don't know, ChatGPT, for example, is citing a lot of, Forbes, for example. So why? Because, Forbes is quite relevant, and it's supposed to be like writing about stuff that is very interesting and relevant to the audience. So I think it's just a matter of putting your brand up there and making sure that you only write about things that are relevant. Because in the publishing industry, especially for the last few years, it seems like there's a trend of writing about everything, left, right, center. So I think that is probably going to be a mistake. I think the publishers that are going to benefit more or are going to suffer the least, at least, are the ones that are very industry related or very, I wouldn't say niche, but at least more specialized in a specific area, because they would be becoming more experts in whatever they're publishing. They will be writing content that is highly searched for. And when it comes to like driving revenue, I don't know, if I'm honest. I would want to think that they can still maintain the business model, but maybe pivoting towards, I don't know, some sort of, sponsorships, or any kind of system that, is more sustainable long term, because clicks will definitely drop for them. But I think it's all about like positioning your brand, building your reputation, and writing content that aligns like spot on with what the audience is looking for. So things like clickbait are probably going to be not useful anymore. They are not going to drive you clicks because and so there won't be a blue link that you are relying on the meta title for clicking. So I think it will be all about like producing content that is relevant, that attracts the attention of the users when they are finding it inside the LLMs, and probably adapt some sort of like find another business model. But It's tricky. It's tricky for news media outlets, publishers, article, blog pages, etc. So but it's going to be all about content, isn't it? So it was always all about content. So I think for the first time and maybe final time, we will be writing content for humans instead of writing content for Google. So that might actually be the main strategy, I guess.
Yeah. And again, Ahrefs mentioned that in that article as well, the human-driven side of things. You mentioned like the customer research and user research being so important these days. I totally agree with you. I think we could see a big split in the publishing side of things, and especially, as you mentioned there, the kind of niche side of things. I think we're seeing a lot of people move towards smaller communities and more closed off areas of the internet in a way. Like we've seen the huge expanse of the open internet for the last 15, 20 years at this point. And it feels like we're going back to almost those early days of forums and chat rooms and all that kind of stuff. I'm seeing more and more people getting value and conversions out of Slack channels and Discords and all this kind of stuff, right? And I think the subscription model side of things is a very interesting conversation. So I think a lot of publishers are already doing that. A lot of even big news sites do that, where you have to basically pay to not use their cookies, which I think is pretty questionable. But I'm not the ICO. I'm not the European Commission. That's not my job to report them. Well, I have reported a couple of websites, but but I think you then, yeah, exactly right. You then have to think about the monetization side of things, and also you're almost like categorizing yourself as, oh, you have to pay for our content. Like there can be a certain amount of free content, a certain amount of pay for content, but if people don't have the money, you're essentially creating almost like a class divide of readers in a way. And I think that is a very interesting conversation when it comes to, oh, you can no longer access certain parts of the internet because you can't afford to. You can no longer read your favorite news site because they can only survive from their paid subscribers. Or maybe they're very altruistic and people pay for stuff and they still give most of their 99% of the stuff is free, and they give a little extra bit that's like the paid for thing, right? I think we see this a lot with like Patreon creators or buy me a coffee and all that kind of stuff, right? Which is where a lot of my experience comes from in podcasting. I can see that happening, but I also don't know how long-term sustainable. Like you said there, that could be a sustainable thing for the next 5 years, 10 years, maybe. But I don't know if that squeezing and the shrinking of the internet is actually a positive thing at the end of the day. Maybe it's too open and too big at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that it's true that if you rely on a subscription-based model, like you have to produce content for both LLMs and your users, because if you have your main content hidden, how are the LLMs going to find it, and how are the LLMs going to reference to it? So there's a tight line between how much content do you have hidden or like on a subscription based level, compared to because you also want to produce content to be featured, because it's a vicious cycle. If you don't produce content that is going to be cited, then people are not going to come to your website. They are not going to subscribe to your service. So it's complicated, and as I said, it's definitely the one of the 2-3 industries that is going to probably start adjusting by now. But I would also say that it's one of the industries that is more resistant or critical with AI. I don't know, you can see a lot of main publishers that are already blocking ChatGPT on the robots file, so they don't get their content. But that works now. It's not going to work in 1 year or 2 years. So a lot of adjustment. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's another business model that could work for them. It's just a matter of leveraging the content that you have against what the users are looking for.
100%. Yeah. I think to have kind of conversation, I've had a couple of conversations with clients before. We ended up doing some digital PR work for a client a couple of years ago, where we had built up a relationship with a particular publisher that was like, if you get any more of this type of news that is relevant to us, come to us first. And it was almost like this, very good kind of rapport, reputation kind of thing. And for me, I think that is a lot of where you talked earlier about the importance of brand and brand expansion and brand building. And it's all about the relationships and dynamics that you have with your users, with your partners, with all the other side of things. Even if you're not literally getting backlinks from it, having people talking about you in positive ways. You mentioned reviews earlier as well, Pablo. I think that's hugely important and something people are maybe underestimating when it comes to LLM side of things. There is, for me, a lot of it where if you can become somebody's go-to source of information, I don't know, like, for example, if you're really into sports or into video games or whatever it is, you might have one news source that is like your go-to. Oh, that's the first thing I check every morning. I need to check the latest scores. Or, I need to check what the latest video game reviews are. I always go straight to this website. I'm that kind of person. I get a lot of brand loyalty. I do a lot of that stuff. I don't know how typical of a user I am, but I can totally see almost a shift towards a lot of direct traffic stuff as well. So you even get out of that funnel entirely, and there's not even any, if you're somehow able to build a relationship with enough users to be their go-to source of information on a particular topic. And you mentioned there the specificity and the niche of it all, right? Being really focused and really specific. You can then be like, oh, I'm a PlayStation 5 gamer versus an Xbox gamer. I'm going to go straight to the PlayStation news site rather than the other ones because they know exactly what I want and exactly what I need. Can you see yourself doing that kind of? I mean, maybe you do that at the moment, Pablo. I don't want to speak for you. Do you think that could be an element of that kind of almost a shift away from organic traffic to more direct traffic, where we just have this kind of direct one-to-one relationship with some sites, maybe?
Yeah, and I think that should be one of the end goals for brands. So people get access to them straight away without having to have a conversation with someone. We can even put this into move this into real life. If you, as you said, I'm going to use I don't know, like a running industry, for example. You like running and you're used to it, so you wouldn't go to your friend to ask what brand of running shoes should I get for. No, I've been doing that for ages, so I know I'm going to go to Nike or New Look or what New Balance or anything. So it's kind of, if we move that towards a digital environment, it should be the same. So you shouldn't have to have a conversation with an AI bot to find out what you are used to consume. So the problem is that there's so many brands, and the audience is very big. So what you want to achieve is to become the brand of choice for whatever you're looking for, and that is not easy. So I think at some point, some brands will want to nurture their audience. So they either go directly to them, as you said, for, I don't know, finding news or buying a product or hiring a service, because they already used to work with that, or they're used to read that content, or they're familiar with them. And that will become a big portion of their traffic and their revenue. So at some point, as you said, direct traffic will and should be one of the main drivers of revenue, however that revenue comes, rather than having to go through, let's say, middlemen, in this case, which are the LLMs that are going to, provide you with information, because you should have already cleared that informational part of the sales funnel. And I think, again, for most industries, that should be the main end goal, and how they will be getting their revenue and how they are going to get the main attribution channel, because it's all based on brand recognition and being familiar with something that you know.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a big conversation. You mentioned earlier, SEO, thinking outside of the silo, right? And thinking outside to other stuff. How many people actually report on direct traffic to their clients if they're just working in SEO? You don't do the paid stuff. You're not doing anything else. That could be a really relevant statistic. And I think you're spot on. That's going to be more and more relevant, especially if you can discuss that and have that as the end goal of this is going to be the best way for people to become loyal to your brand, become loyal and buy your products and generate you revenue and all that kind of thing. for me, I think that is a lot of the conversations I've had with clients recently is, okay, there has been a decline in clicks here, or there has been a shift in traffic here, but actually we're seeing an increase in direct traffic, and we're seeing an increase in direct traffic for these particular queries on these particular pages. And maybe that's something the industry needs to think about as well. Like if we're thinking about analytics and GSC and GA4 and stuff like that, for me, I think that is where a lot of the conversation comes from, that brand visibility side of things, right? That is a pretty good way of measuring, are people coming to your site? If you're unable to track that and you haven't got, clicks from LLMs and click from AI bots and things like that, you can measure people understanding your brand and visiting your site more with direct traffic. People are searching for you, then, like you said, end goal, job done, right?
Yeah, it's a two-stage approach. So like you want to measure like citations, how many times your brand is mentioned, for what particular prompts your brand has been mentioned, and just basically understand what your audience is looking for. That's kind of the informational part of the sales funnel, as I said before. The other side is when you already reach certain brand maturity, and then you can already start tracking. I mean, you can do it from the very beginning, but I think you should be focusing more when your brand is already more or less recognized, and then you are starting to get a lot of traffic or brand visibility, however you're tracking it with different tools. As you said, direct traffic is a way to measure the revenue that comes directly from that brand exposure. And it's not just like direct traffic. Okay, we have 90% more but direct traffic. That's great. We're doing great. No, there's a lot of things that you can do with that. You can filter that by, where is the direct traffic coming from? Is it from, a specific LLM? Is it from ChatGPT? You cross-reference that with, how the brand has been mentioned over time. You filter by, I don't know, like sentiment. You filter by, the type of page that they land on. Is it like more informational? Is it an actual PDP, product landing page? You can get a lot of information. So it's not like we are moving towards an environment where nothing is going to be trackable or measurable. No, actually, there's a lot of opportunities that we can just, track everything that is happening. It's more about how, what KPIs we need to focus on. Where is the user in your sales funnel, in your user journey map, and then making sure that you focus first on, brand exposition, because that comes first, and then you have to explain that to your client or to your stakeholders, and then you can actually track revenue, as you said, with direct traffic, but not just like plain direct traffic. You can, focus on different LLMs, AI mode, and how is that traffic interacting with the site.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Let's finish things off with some recommendations then. We'll get started with one actionable thing you think the listeners of yours should start doing right now.
I think since it's still early days, not a single SEO professional will say that they're an expert in GEO, although there's probably a lot of LinkedIn profiles saying that already.
I was going to say, I've seen that a lot on LinkedIn, mate.
Yeah. So no, I think we are all learning and experimenting and trying to find ways to do things. Whoever says the opposite is probably lying. So I think we just need to focus on like seeing what things are changing and how we can actually adapt to it. I would start like, if you're not doing it, collaborating with other crafts, with other channels, because at some point you will have to integrate everything together. So either you're working in-house or you're working in an agency, just collaborate with every single channel that is participating in the user journey. Like understand your audience. Some of the, at least I'm guilty for that. I don't really pay much attention to, the stage where you're actually investigating the audience, because I think like it will all come to, keywords and clustering and topic creation. So I would probably not need that. I think that's changing now. You have to understand the audience way more than you used to. So like being, involved in SEO very early stages, when you are, for example, pitching for a project or you are designing a campaign, it's very important. And just in general, like experiment, A/B tests, see what kind of content it works best, analyze what content is being present on different prompts for the topics that you want to create, and basically try 100 different things every day, because at the moment that's the tools that we have, because we are everything. Tomorrow what I'm just saying now is probably not relevant anymore. That's the pace that we are going through, and I think it's important to stay active and trying to find all the things that work for AI.
100%, man. Yeah, I think testing, experimenting, trying all the different things is the right way to go. Like you said, especially with the pace that everything is moving at. I feel like a lot of us are kind of a little dipping our toes in the water a little bit, but maybe not enough to try all the different options and try different things. So yeah, great recommendation there, mate. Next
Thankfully,
up, Pete. Sorry, go, mate.
No, I was going to say, thankfully, that we have a lot of different people that's pretty much dedicated to experimenting and finding new things. So you can always learn from them. People like Lily Ray, for example, they probably dedicated to try to find out how things work. So fortunately, the SEO community is quite strong with this. It's not the first time we have to adjust to something. So yeah, just stay active, I guess.
100%. Absolutely. A piece of software or a tool you'd recommend that maybe our listeners and viewers aren't already using?
I think it's not really a tool, but there's a lot of people that is not using APIs as regular, as often, and as much as they should. I'm trying to change that myself. But things like integrating, I don't know, ChatGPT with Google Sheets, with different tools, project management tools, even tools are now evolving and integrating AI. For example, Keyword Insights. It's super complex in a good way to give you the details about content. Screaming Frog, like with the latest update, is absolutely amazing. To analyze semantic similarity. That can also be integrated into your own database and scale the content production. So I think it's I'm not going to say a tool. I'm going to say integration. I think it's one of the overseen things in SEO, like that people tend to ignore, that you can actually put everything together, automate different processes, and yeah, speed up things.
Yeah, definitely. You're totally right. Credit to teams like Keyword Insights and Screaming Frog that are doing a lot of really cool stuff. Where I remember the first time I connected Screaming Frog to Search Console and then Universal Analytics, and then also Ahrefs and also Majestic and also a bunch of other stuff. I was like, I can get all of this stuff in one crawl rather than, like you said, referring to a bunch of different things and actually going around and, I need to link this bit of a chart with another bit of a chart and line those cells up and all this kind of stuff. Like, you can do that in all a couple of clicks, connect a couple of APIs, get a few API keys, link it all together. And I remember how much time that saved me. I think it must have been 4 or 5 years ago now. It blew my mind how simple yet powerful that can be when you start connecting things, rather than having to take that separate data and connect it yourself. God, that can be like VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUPs and all. It drives me mad. Hate that stuff. Good recommendation, mate. Good recommendation.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. I think I haven't met a single SEO that doesn't like Google Sheets. So I think like Google Sheets being the pinnacle of everything that you want to do, and then as many things as you can integrate into it, it's going to make your life extremely easier. And and with AI, it seems to be a tool for like every single thing that you can imagine. So yeah, I think integration and automation is super critical nowadays, because thankfully with AI, there's a lot of things that used to take 10 hours, now it takes half an hour. So yeah, it's just about doing more things with the time that you have.
Yeah, 100%. And last but not least, a video, a book, an article, a podcast. What have you been enjoying recently, Pablo?
Well, we mentioned this the article from Ahrefs about zero-click search. I think that is very to the point, very nice, because he also extracts different points of view from different people as well, from X and LinkedIn. So it's quite straightforward and easy to read. I would also say iPullRank is another website that is gathering a lot of data. They published an article about how AI is going to shape the future of search. So that I would also recommend that. SEO FOMO from Aleida Solis is also another source of content if you are into, and you should, like gathering SEO news and staying on top of things. It's a nice kind of newsletter to be subscribed to. So kudos to her, and I would definitely recommend you subscribe to that. It's a really nice source of information.
100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Great resources. Like, shout out to Mike and Garrett and the team at iPullRank. They do amazing work doing all their research and breaking stuff down. I feel like I see Mike at a new SEO conference every single week, it feels like. And he's always just throwing down new pieces of information, getting into AI mode, getting into LLMs, all that kind of stuff. And of course, shout out to Aleida Solis. Like, is there anything Aleida can't do? It is just ridiculous how much information there is. You've got like the whole hub and like recommendation system on SEO FOMO now. The newsletter is full of articles and stuff as well. Like, yeah, you are spot on, mate. Good recommendations for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Pablo. Last thing to do is, where can people find you? Where's the best place to follow you? What you're doing in SEO? All the cool conversations you're having at the moment as well.
Yeah, mainly LinkedIn. I think I try to be quite active there because I think it's one of the sources of information as well, if you want to stay on top of things. And I'm all generally going to as many conferences as possible. I will be in Brighton in October, so I'll probably see you there. Other than that, I'm based in Leeds, so like anyone that wants to come over and have a chat, feel free to do so.
Nice. Anyone up north, go and give Pablo a shout. Go and hang out. Love Leeds. I have some family in Leeds, and it's a really nice city. I like Leeds a lot. So maybe if I'm visiting those family, I'll give you a bell, mate, and we'll hang out in Leeds.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining, man. It's been a really fun conversation.
No, thanks for having me. It was super fun, and I feel like we probably cover 1% of all the things that we could talk about AI and research. But it was really nice. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Search with Candour. Thank you so much once again to Pablo for joining me. Like I said, please do check out all the links in the description or show notes down below if you're watching or listening, wherever you're watching or listening. And thank you for watching or listening, wherever you are. I hugely appreciate you joining me, and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation with Pablo as much as I did. I'll be back next week with a very good friend of mine, one of my favorite people in SEO, the one and only Jordan Dimitrov. That's right, Jordan is finally on the show. I know plenty of you know Jordan from appearing at Brighton SEO and doing fantastic talks recently. And in fact, Jordan will be speaking for the very first time at Brighton SEO next week. It's crazy. So in 2 weeks from when this comes out, but 1 week from when Jordan's episode comes out. His episode comes out the Monday before Brighton SEO. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Anyway, he'll be speaking as well as me in Auditorium 1 on Thursday, the 23rd of October. So please do come and join us there. Jordan is going to be talking all about how brand is important to LLM visibility. Of course, a topic we have talked about a lot on this show, and I think is a big discussion topic in SEO in 2025. And I can't wait for you to hear my conversation with Jordan, because he's a brilliant guy, he has a brilliant mind, and it's a really interesting conversation. So stay tuned for next week's episode, and the following week after that will be the live podcast collaboration between the SEO Mindset and Search with Candour, recorded live in Brighton in front of an audience. So you'll have that to look forward to in a few weeks as well. In the meantime, thank you so much once again, and I'll see you next week. Have a lovely week.